SuperFreakonomics is the long-awaited sequel to Freakonomics. The author, Stephen Levitt, or co-author with Stephen Dubner, joins me in the studio now. Stephen, welcome, first of all, to England. Now, from donuts in the first one, donut sellers, to patriotic prostitutes in the second volume, you talk about economic approaches rather than economics. Is this primarily entertainment, or is it a serious economic treatise?
Well, hopefully a little bit of both. I've always thought that you could teach and you could entertain at the same time. So we take the tools of economics, the ideas of incentives mattering, the ideas that you take data, you look at it seriously, look at correlation and try and really get to causality. But at the same time, we apply it to topics you say, like drug dealing and whether drunk walking is more or less dangerous than drunk driving, and prostitutes, things that people care a lot more about than the sort of standard economic fare.
What's amazed me about watching this phenomenon grow from Freakonomics to SuperFreakonomics is the amount of feedback you've had from readers and members of the public. Has that surprised you? And Stephen Dubner, your co-author.
Yeah, it is surprising. We read a column in the New York Times and we hear nothing at all about it, but we either, from the book, probably we get, I don't know, 50 or 100 emails a day. We still get emails about Freakonomics. We get inundated from SuperFreakonomics. And it's something with the modern world and the kind of book we've written just makes people feel like they can reach out. And it's been really useful because the readers reach out and they give us ideas for our new book. In fact, one of the characters in our book, a very high-priced call girl, she sent me an email, told me a mutual acquaintance of ours had told her about some data collection I had, and she had a Palm Pilot with all the information from all our clients, and was that the kind of information I wanted to collect? And I said, absolutely, and beginning of a wonderful relationship with myself and this prostitute.
Well, it must have worked, because clearly at the end, Ali, who you talk about in the book, went back to college to study economics, in fact.
Absolutely, yeah. She comes and guest lectures in my class at the University of Chicago every year, and my students, about a third of them told me it is the single best lecture that they've ever had at the University of Chicago. It's the one that's delivered by the prostitute.
Now, on the other hand, it hasn't been without controversy, and of course you ended this hugely controversial area of climate change, didn't you? What exactly happened?
So we start from exactly the same premises that environmentalists and others do, that the Earth is getting warmer, and what we try to do is, number one, say, look, the path we're on is not a good one, because if the Earth is getting warmer, trying to reduce carbon, number one, will take 50 years before we get the big effects because carbon dioxide stays in the air for so long. But number two, how are we going to get 7 billion people to come together and change their behavior when they don't benefit directly from it themselves? And the costs, I mean, the economists estimate the cost of carbon mitigation at trillions and trillions of dollars per year. So what we say is, well, is there, in a pinch, if the world got too hot, how could you quickly cool it down? And it turns out there are scientific solutions, technological solutions out there that the scientists agree upon that mirror nature, like when volcanoes erupt and shoot sulfuric ash into the stratosphere, it cools the planet. And so we talk about some different geoengineering schemes, which the price tag is incredibly low, something like $500 million, $200 million. They can cool the Earth to whatever temperature you want. And sure, they might have unintended consequences. They aren't a cure for global warming. But look, if you're sick, if you've got cancer, sure, you wish you didn't have cancer, but you also got to try and do the best you can. And I mean, let's just say that there was a cure to cancer. And that was if every one of the 7 billion people on the planet all prayed for you at the same time. That would be fine, but I think you'd still go to the doctor and try and find another cure for cancer too. And I think that's kind of where we are in the climate debate.
These are serious issues, as you point out, and they are very, very well researched. It's microeconomics, though, isn't it? Do you think more attention should be paid to this finer level of detail at the macro level, because they haven't had a great war so far, or a credit crisis, have they?
Well, macroeconomics is hard, right? If I could answer the macroeconomic questions, predicting recessions, tell you where the stock market was going to go, avoid the credit crunch, I would love to do that, okay? And I can't do that because it's too hard, and no one else can do it because it's too hard. So it's kind of a little bit of capitulation to do the kind of, trivial stuff that I do relative to that. But is it useful? Yes, I think it's useful because when we make public policy, we always need to think about how people respond to incentives. And I think there's a role for economists, microeconomists like me, to evaluate how people will game the system when you come up with systems. And also, I think one of the hallmarks of what I do, what other economists do, is we strip away the moralism. We don't think about and talk about what the world should be like. We talk about what the world really is like. And I think it's useful to have that kind of voice. It's not a popular voice. I mean, we're the dismal science for a reason. But I do think that it's something to be heard in the debate.
Do you, when you started out in economics, do you have somebody that has been throughout, if you like, your economic hero?
Well, I've had a few, but probably the biggest influence on my career has been a man named Gary Becker, a Nobel Prize winner.
You mentioned him in the book.
We do, absolutely. And he is the one who made the world of economics safe for people like me. He started in the 1950s looking at discrimination and the economics of the family. He has also looked at global warming, and he's shown that the economic approach, the ideas of economics, can shed light on absolutely any topic if you use the tools in the right way.
Well, here's the curveball question. Looking at the macroeconomic picture at the moment, the United States, your country, has it done enough, really, do you think, to pull the rest of us out of this pretty awful crisis?
Too much. We've done way too much. I think the long look. I'm not a macroeconomist, but my impression is that the biggest lasting cost of this financial crisis will have been the government response. That if the government had just sat by and done next to nothing, my hunch is that we would, in 15 years, have turned out to be in a better place than by spending trillions of dollars, too big to fail, the moral hazard problems that come with the idea that, now bankers can go and do whatever they want and someone's going to bail them out. I think there was an overreaction of government to a situation that somehow everyone got the idea that capitalism had failed and that this was the end of capitalism. I mean, it was a recession. Recessions happen. We've been spoiled because the economy's been too good. But I just feel like whether it was the media had nothing to write about or that what happened, the middle class actually got hit. Usually the middle class in the U.S. doesn't get hit by recessions. But housing prices started to fall, asset prices started to fall, and I think the middle class is panicked.
Stephen Levitt, co-author of SuperFreakonomics, thank you very much.
Thank you.